YouTube. We're gonna open this box right now before your very eyes. Here goes nothing. Welcome to Brian Phillips RC. If you haven't been here before, we unbox these planes, we build them, and we radio set them up, which is another way of saying we make them work with the stuff that we have in the video, which is amazing. Earth-shattering.
No one's ever done it before.
You've probably seen it hundreds more times from this very channel. And this is brand new to Brian Phillips RC, which is another way of saying we haven't done it yet, but you might have, okay? I evidently have lost the edge in cutting boxes. Oh yeah, what is this? We have a Kingfisher 1400 millimeters from FMS. Amazing. Okay, now, a couple things to talk about right now. Feast your very eyes on this. Floats, oversized wheels, and skis. Last week we had the entire yard was covered, all 24 acres of it was covered in snow. But we waited till it was going to be 50 degrees to do this one. So I just wanted to point that out as a point of reference.
It will snow again. Don't you worry.
Maybe. I hope not.
It will.
Is it coming out?
Yes.
Oh, goodness
It's a boy.
gracious. Thank you for taking my line. So the Kingfisher, as you can see, is a high wing general aviation plane. It looks like we have wingspan of 1400 millimeters or 55.1 inches. The flying weight is about 1400 grams. Motor size is 35 millimeters by 36, and it's 850 kV. So that's a pretty big motor, but it's only a 40 amp ESC, which is crazy. And then look at this, 3S 2200. Seriously?
We'll see.
So we're gonna use a 3S 2200. And then we're probably going to, if this one comes with the reflex, we're gonna use an AR620, but I don't know for certain if this uses the reflex or if it doesn't.
Over here.
Where? It says reflex, V2. So we're gonna use the AR620. Now the AR620, of course, doesn't have stabilizer. It has a super duper limited telemetry. And if you want full telemetry, but you already get the reflex, you use a 6610, I believe is what you would get. And it's longer, it's skinny. It looks like basically a 637,
T.
but it doesn't have the AS3X and safe, so it's quite a bit cheaper. Just saying in case you're curious. We never use that because, to be honest with you, I can take or leave telemetry on a plane like this. I don't necessarily need it. Now, if it was a sailplane, like the one we did not too long ago from FMS, that was pretty good. Or wait, that was made by FMS. But anyway, that one actually we did use one that had telemetry. So
637T. Yep.
And the 637T is a great receiver. It's just a little bit more expensive and probably a little overkill on some of these planes that you're gonna be flying closer. However, telemetry might be nice if you're gonna be on water exclusively. And if you were thinking of throwing in thrust reverse with an avian ESC, then you could do thrust reverse. Now, I'm not sure if this one's gonna have thrust reverse or not, but also with regard to thrust reverse, our experience to date has been the avian ESCs have been pretty much perfect. We've never had a problem except for when I caused it. And with the Predator ESCs, we have had a time or two where the technical limitations of the way that it's supposed to switch from forward to back have left me bouncing and crashing on more than one occasion. Now, that is also because we run a pretty short runway, 275 feet, and we're talking EDF jets that need a little bit of help with slowing down in that short distance. So on something like this, it should be no problem. But thrust reverse also, speaking of the Predator ESC, when you get the yellow wire, which we'll point it out when we get to that point in the Unbox build radio setup, be toward the end, of course, you have to plug in just a singular pin, which acts as signal because you already have power and ground from the regular signal for throttle, which we'll get into a little bit later. So with regard to the Unbox, we'll pick back up. Oh, so if you get the 620 or the 6610 and you have the reflex, of course, will act as your stabilizer and auto leveling function. And with 6 channels, we should have throttle elevator, rudder, ailerons as a pair, flaps, and mode. So that's the big trade-off when you go over to AS3X and Safe, which is considerably more expensive, but if you save it on the Reflex, then you can still have all those features, but you can ride the upper channels and you can tap those channels with your transmitter beyond the 6 pluggable channels. So you actually pick up the retracts, for instance, and the mode and the master gain, whereas with the Reflex, you are gonna be wholly dependent on their tuning. But their tuning is usually pretty good. There have been 1 or 2 occasions where it's maybe not quite as good as AS3X and Safe, but remember, AS3X and Safe is gonna give you the ability to fine tune the way that the stabilizer works, whereas the Reflex is pretty much pre-programmed by USB-A to USB-C. You plug it in and you set what plane it is, and FMS has already engineered that. Okay, there is no flexibility that I understand. Okay, if I'm speaking in error, I apologize in advance. I don't believe I am.
If you would get it without the Reflex at some point, you could do an AR631 or a 630.
Look at this nice pair.
That is a nice pair.
Would you like to touch my pair?
They're a little pointy, like usually a little.
Okay, so right and left, that's nice.
Okay.
R, L. And then there's a little ridge. Now, just a couple of things about these. When you get included floats on a plane, sometimes they're more expensive and sometimes they're cheaper, okay? These ones are a cheaper variant because there's no plastic reinforcement here. And I'm gonna just tell you something about floats. If you plan to float on snow or grass, which you can fly float planes off of grass if you want, you will be more destruction. There will be more destruction involved, just so you know. Because snow is surprisingly hard on floats. So if you get the more expensive styles, and it's hard to tell what this is, there'll be reinforcements along the rib, and there'll be reinforcements here, and sometimes there'll be splash guards in this area, okay? Now this one is just pure foam. It's nice and stiff, feels well built, it's got good mounts, the mounts feel solid, they're not wanting to pop off on us. And because we don't have our giant pond done yet, which if you guys are new to Brian Phillips RC, you don't realize where we are, but this is where we film. And that is where the dam is gonna go. If you point and you can see the D6 dozer that's just chilling over there on the other side, that's going to be in the water.
To there, yep.
And then if you kind of show them over here, there's like a stake. Where's the stake? Yeah, that stake. That part's gonna get dug out and the pond is gonna continue out a little bit more. So there's about a third of the pond is not dug out. And if I went into that water, the water, you wouldn't be able to see me. It's all the way down. So we'll show you more as that comes along. But with regard to floats, we will be doing floats more so because historically when we do float planes, we don't generally review the float feature because we used to live in an area where we had 3 ponds in our neighborhood. And then we had a huge pond, huge, beautiful pond across the way where we filmed the rest of our footage. Of course, with the rules that have changed a little bit, probably some of that would have been disallowed, but we still, like when we started, it was actually legal and ethical and not a problem, and we had good relationships with our neighbors. So I suggest you do that no matter what. 11x7 prop, looks pretty simple. It's got an octagonal drive on the back, and then it's just a straight through pass on the front. And this will be a noisy prop because it's got those blunt edges. As we go through Unbox Build radio setups, if you guys are new to Brian Phillips RC, if you want to help support us, all you have to do is look no further than the links in the video description below. You can buy these planes, radios, transmitters, batteries that we review. And we're going to show you guys a very close look at what comes in the box. That's not carbon fiber. That's fiberglass, black fiberglass. Fiberglass is inferior to carbon fiber in that it is heavier and less strong, but not by a lot. You know, on a plane like this, it should be fine. That's what we do on this channel, is we tell you that they used fiberglass instead of carbon fiber. Like, I don't care, as long as it's right. Okay, so we've got these wing spars. Whoops, probably goes like this, I'm guessing. And it does not look like they're marked really clearly looking. Sometimes there's like a little raised R or L, but it looks like they may be symmetrical. Also, manuals, not folded. Good job. I was getting ready to rip them a new one about a folded manual. Beautiful. Which, by the way, speaking of ripping them a new one, we work with FMS. We work with a bunch of different brands. By the way, one of the most beautiful planes we've ever done right there. And that is by FMS, the F7F Hellcat. What a beauty. But also not a good starter plane. It's too fast, it's gonna take up too much real estate, and it's expensive. But the thing is, it's worth it, and it's beautiful. And if you've never experienced it, check it out. We have the videos right now for it. That's what I was gonna say. If you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we unbox these things, we build them, we radio set them up, and we try to help you get from shipped to you, opened, and built, and then we radio set the thing so that you can copy right along if you need some help. And there's a lot of people that get into this hobby and they either quit because they make the wrong decisions at the wrong time for the wrong reasons, and then they have a bad experience. And we try to help avoid that, okay? And we would think that we're pretty good at it, but of course we're us. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to smash the like button. That is empty.
Oh.
It's just packing.
Waiting
It's
for
just
something to fall out.
It's to pack the skis,
Oh, okay.
because the skis are plastic, okay? So skis are deceivingly hard to recreate, okay? People have tried and failed many times, including Brian Phillips. They have springs on them, and they keep them propped up. And then they have a nice ridge on the bottom. Now, these are gonna be pretty sturdy. They will hold up in snow, okay? So our objective is probably not gonna be to fly off of skis. However, depending on how the flight goes, we may end up throwing these on because this is, after all, the Kingfisher and wanna show its kingdomship. Yes. That's a lot of parts.
That was a lot.
Holy crap.
Oh, man. Well, but floats, there's probably floats and skis hardware, right? Hopefully. Please
I don't
say
know.
yes.
It is what it is.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we've built hundreds of planes. Hey, look at this cable. Watch this. USB-A to USB-C. This comes with your reflex. It is not a normal USB to AB.
Nope.
This is an unusual cable, and for that reason, I'm going to throw it. That was so close to hitting the timber. I was trying to throw that in the stairway, and I failed miserably, but now the cat can find it.
Great.
Then we can yell at the cat. That'll be fun. Okay, so this is an FPV mount, which would go in place of your canopy, which is pretty cool that they thought of that. I'm never going to use it. You might. If you guys like FPV, I don't pick on FPV guys because I know it's a fun thing to do. I just don't enjoy it myself. There's a lot of people that really enjoy it and they think it's gonna make it super easy to fly. And I'm gonna tell you a few things I've learned about FPV. One, it is harder to tell where you are in time and space than you think, okay? Because even a really high quality FPV system, if you have pan or pan and tilt, it helps, but you are limited on how far you can pan and how far you can tilt, one. And two, depth perception is basically out the window. I'm still waiting for somebody to come up with dual cameras that would connect to dual eyeballs, not just two images that your eyes see separately, because that's a joke. And when that happens, then your brain will be able to work depth perception into it. So when that happens, I want to see the rig that holds two cameras side by side, has the pan and tilt, and of course then you can make it do a full 360 rotation, or not 360, but 180 usually on the top. And then I will be very excited to try that. Because in my experience FPVing, which we never share because we can't, you need part 107 for that, which is totally stupid. My depth perception makes it really hard to land. But I enjoy flying. I like line of sight flying. That's what I enjoy. And for you, it might not be the same. Okay, so Kingfisher, got this taper on the wing tip. Feels like it's pretty solid. It's got a little bit of flex to it. Nothing crazy. It looks like digital. Can't tell if they're metal gears. Looks like they're probably plastic gear. I would have said metal. But this is a lighter plane, okay? 1,400 millimeters. And that means that this is going to be hugging into the body of the fuselage, will help make up the 1,400 because that's not a very long wing, okay? Big aileron, smaller inboard flap. Looks fine. Flap just articulates down. So if you decided you were going to do crow on a plane like this, you could do crow. Now, crow speaks to the feathers of a crow that go up and down, okay? In this case, this would go down as an inboard flap. You would use one channel for your other inboard flap they would share, okay? So you down is all that does. Then the ailerons would be separate channels, so you would be able to command them to all go down or all go up. That would be down would be a flapperon, and then up would be a spoileron. And in combination with the downward acting inboard flap, then you get what we call crow, okay? I've heard other people call it reflex too. I don't know if reflex is just used in sailplanes or if I'm just mistaken, because This is a Reflex V2 for the stabilizer, not to be confused there.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we have the other wing. Everything feels totally fine about these wings. There is a quick release mechanism, it looks like, which is kind of cool. So I'm not sure if this is actually going to be a quick release sort of thing. But again, 1400 millimeters gets to the point where some people aren't going to be able to fit it in their family car easily, okay? So just continuing through a lot of different pieces in this, and admittedly, the reason there's a lot of pieces in this plane is because you have floats, big wheels, and skis, okay? So we have our float hardware. Again, coming back to the whole concept of when we get our pond done, we'll do more of this. In the past, we have done float planes. I love float planes. Float planes look and work the part, but just keep in mind something. If you're brand new to the hobby and you're thinking about getting in, float planes do help it fly a little easier usually because they have a very low, the center of mass is lower, not the center of gravity, but the center of mass is lower. And so I found that it will calm down a plane that's otherwise like unwieldy, okay? Big, heavy duty spring steel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can hear it. Sounds like,
Those are like really thick.
yeah, so that's good. So what we do is I take these, and I was gonna say this earlier and I probably got off topic. I take these and I will wrap them up. And then my first thing, oh, by the way, water rudder that will go into the tail assembly at some point if you decide to use it. Believe me, that is more critical than you might realize. Also thrust reverse with regard to water planes, okay? If you don't have it, you probably want to get it. And if you don't get it, then you need to make sure you have some sort of a ferry vehicle, whether it be a boat or maybe another float plane that you can put like a tie string on and just have like another piece of foam or something so you can catch it easily and then drag it back to shore. Last thing you want to do is go out with your float plane and have to wait for the wind to blow it into the reeds in an inaccessible area.
You always put your floats together and wrap them up.
Yes.
I think you were going to say
that's
that.
what I was going to say. Thank you. Okay, so this is the elevator and horizontal stabilizer. This is a very weird assembly. We've seen them. We've done a lot of planes. Looks like it's very quick to take apart. There's a quick release here. Then this will be the linkage that goes back to actuate the elevator, which is super stout. Look at this connector.
Yeah, I know.
That's very unusual. We have never seen one like that. Well, I shouldn't say we've never seen one like that. We've seen them like that on very big, kind of expensive planes. So this is an unusual fit. So I guess we'll see if it works well. It seems like it'll work fine. Usually it's just like a piece of joiner, like tube or plastic.
Quality control.
Okay, we'll just throw that right into the file cabinet. Now there's this here, and I stuck that back in there. Don't stick it back in once you're done. You'll confuse yourself. Okay, so this is blocking the fuse. Okay, the money shot's coming, guys. Here comes the fuse. Oh yeah. So like I said, if you guys are brand new to Brian Phillips RC and you want to help support us, all you have to do is look no further than the links in the video description below. You could buy these planes. You can have one for your very own. We've helped thousands upon thousands of different people just like you to get in the air. And if you're brand new to the hobby, this might end up being a reasonably good beginner plane because it's got all the features that you're after. And yet it's reasonably priced. Ooh, look, reinforced hinge down here. I like it. Now that is a pinch hinge design, meaning that the foam goes into the mold and then at some point they pinch it, okay? And then they sometimes reinforce with glue. It looks like that one's unreinforced, but there is reinforcement down here in terms of a screw point. That's very good because that's where your water rudder or your tail, yeah, water rudder's probably gonna slide into there at some point. How does that work? Maybe it goes in there. That's a wheel? I'm not sure how that works. I guess we'll find out. The water rudder will probably connect right where the same tail dragger wheel goes, okay? But like I was saying, if you guys help support us, when you look at the links, they're links to just bring you to the manufacturer's site, okay? If you buy them from the link, then they'll send us commissions. So it's nice, so you get to support us without actually sending us money, which is the best way to do it. And looking here, we've got an ESC comes up, the 40 amp ESC. It's got an XT60. We'll talk about if that's compatible or not with what we're planning on using. And then you can see the Reflex prominently located there. Should be really easy to mount one right next to it, which is what we'll do. But being that the 620 is not spatially aware, like a 630 or a 631 or a 637T would be, then we can just plug it in and just plop it back in the opening there. Now, also I want to talk about top hatch access. That is a big factor for most of us that have ever flown a float plane. See the clip? It's not wanting to go back. See that? All the way down. Really hard to clip. That's okay. It'll wear in. I gotta say the nose looks good on this plane. I like it. But there's one piece down here and it's screwed in right there. 2 screws. Serviceability is really nice, guys. I like that so long as it's not ugly. And they did match this nicely. They jigged and painted this. You see it's all painted. That looks nice. A lot of times we'll have a plastic cowl and the cowl will not quite match perfectly the color of the paint. And so that's kind of a non-starter for me. Also, I want to talk about this reinforced plastic here. That's really nice. And then this, I don't even know what the heck this is. If this is a mount for another FPV or a tailed, oh, that might be, so you can do a tow plane. Is that what that is? A tow hook maybe? That's super cool, if that's what it is. Okay, so real quick, just looking at the size of this plane. For a 1400 millimeter plane, that's not a very big plane. So that means this thing is gonna have really good low wing loading, which makes it easier to fly. And, or at least it's going to have more lift. It doesn't necessarily make it easy to fly, I shouldn't say that. Also, we have some landing gear on the bottom we gotta get out of here. I'm just gonna flip this back over. Now, if you guys also are new to the channel and you don't know how we do things, once we're done with our unbox, build, and radio setup, we'll go ahead and do a maiden flight, but we publish them out of order. So you guys can see the flight right away. Because many times, if you don't like the way that a plane flies, you're not interested in how to put it together, right? Or maybe it's too expensive, or you don't like the way it looks, or whatever it is. Or I crash it embarrassingly. That is a nice, nice pair. Oh, it's rock hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, talk about a miss.
That's a disappointment.
Yeah, 5 inches. I mean, they look good, but they're not soft. Guys, there's something we've learned, and this is from personal experience. If you have a nice, big, squishy pair, if they're too firm, usually you can tell they're fake.
Yeah. Shoot.
So, I got distracted there a little bit. But what's gonna happen is this will be one choice that you can use, which is gonna look sweet.
Which does look nice.
It does look nice.
Yeah.
And that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, a firmer pair will not sag or get deflected as much, right?
It's true.
Also, if you choose to fly this on the snow, if you have a really soft pair, then you can come in and engage the snow with less fear of a nose over, okay? Because they will displace and become a larger, flatter surface, okay? That also helps to take some of the shock out of a bad landing. Again, this is an aluminum landing gear, so it's got a little bit of movement, so they can splay out a little bit if you have a hard landing. But I'm not gonna say that that's a deal breaker for me. Now, one thing I did just notice too is they have an assembly here instead of having just, because it feels like this is a really nice spin. That's not always true, by the way, okay? So it looks like a screw that goes into a nut, and then it goes into some sort of another adapter, and then that acts as the bushing. And you hear that? It's gonna be noisy.
Yeah. For grass,
Not a deal breaker.
They'll be fine for grass.
Grass tops will be fine. And then this is Tundra tires. It's designed to be an off-road application.
Right.
So it all makes sense. So I don't mean to beat anybody up at FMS. And to be honest with you, we do like the companies we work with, because if we didn't like them, we wouldn't survive working with them, because we're too honest about what they do. And so in this case, I gotta say, we really do like FMS product. They do a good job. Generally speaking, they make good stuff that people want, and they do a good job of making it. And then they make for a lot of other manufacturers too, which truthfully will tell you as much as we know that we're allowed to say, okay? But a lot of the planes that you like from some of the other manufacturers are also made by FMS. So with regard to the build, we're gonna pause, clean up, and come right back. All right, so we got stuff cleaned up, and just in looking at this assembly, I had mentioned something. This little piece here, which goes like that, this is going to go here eventually, and it's gonna go like that, and that's what's gonna sandwich to hold your steerable tail wheel or your water rudder. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out because we had some ambiguity in my brain about it. Also, I just want to go ahead and get this safety issue taken care of. There's this label that might get in the way of
your safety?
my safety. So I'm going to just, don't do that thing, guys.
Okay, got it. Noted.
Don't do that with the prop. Don't cut yourself. I'm just saying. All right, so without further ado, we're going to continue on our build. Oh, but while we're in here for just 2 seconds, I just want to talk about this. This is something we do all the time, and it's a really good way to hold your batteries in if you don't like committing a battery to the viciousness of Velcro, okay? See this Velcro? Mm-hmm. You want to have this giant piece of Velcro, giant piece on your little inky dinky battery.
Yeah, I'd like to stick one to every side of my battery. Jeez, that's ridiculous.
It's eventually going to be your furry little friend, okay? And so I'm going to give you the solution that you didn't even know you needed right now. Now, we're not the first or the last people to do this, but we do have the biggest roll right here. It's shelf liner, and it works perfectly. Why'd you look over there like there was something important happening?
No, there was like a car driving by. It caught my eye.
Okay, so anyway, the rigors of filming YouTube videos. So listen, if you did this like that, that would be perfectly fine. But this is pretty valuable commodity, and we don't have much of it.
Right, and we would not want to be without in some...
So if I stick that Velcro back down, then that battery can slide in or out, and you're going to have a bite point. But I know for a fact that the other way I could do it is just, whoops. Now I can take and I can stick this down, and it's going to work perfectly, because what I need to do is I only need to produce a little bit of a resistance to that battery slipping and sliding all over the place, okay? So now I can cut this, and I can cut this, and just kind of make it work, okay? That's all you need. And then you just stick that down in there under approximately where the strap is, and then that's going to provide you some slip resistance for your batteries. So we'll just show you the quick test. If you guys are brand new to the channel, you probably haven't seen this, so I don't want you to be in the dark about this. Okay, so imagine this is a friction test. Not much friction. Hardly any friction. Okay, how does that relate to flying? Don't you worry, you. Okay? Now, this doesn't work unless it's pressed on there tight. And it's pressed on there tight. Like, I don't know if you guys can see the white in my thumbnail. Show them the white in my thumbnail. That means I'm holding it tight and pushing. You can move it, but you got to move hard, okay? So that's the way that works, because these are slick on the outside almost always, okay? Unless you've got, you know, like a landing strip cut on there or whatever, which is annoying. But I needed that for that plane. I had to do it for that plane, reluctantly, and it's small. Okay, so now, since we don't have much of that, I can put it in my bag of extras.
Right.
There.
Hey, while we're down here, your reflex is gonna like fall out. Should we glue that so it can be sitting by the time?
Can we show the people?
Yeah.
My camera crew claims that that's gonna fall out.
Wiggle it. That thing that's supposed to be stuck down?
Okay, so a couple things to talk about. Namely, number one, this is a yellow wire. That's gonna give us thrust reverse. So I'm going to separate that to the extent that I can easily take this and I can pass that back to where I'm gonna plug into my receiver, okay? Now, our double-sided tape here has obviously failed us. It's sort of sticky, but I'm guessing that this is just not sticky enough. So, watch this. What you wanna do is just jump in the car, jump in the family car, head on down to China so you can get some China glue. Or you can order it from FMS when you're ordering this plane. And I suggest if you don't have any China glue, order it anyway. You need it, and you don't even know.
You don't need it.
You do. Okay, this is also, if you're buying a receiver from Spectrum, when you buy it, you can get foam to foam, and then the FMS China glue is gonna be considerably similar products. This happens to be a little bit smaller tube, as you can tell. This one you have to pierce it when you get it. This one comes opened. They're both aluminized tubes. Let's just show you. The only thing I don't like about this product is the cap. Oh, she's already excited. You see how it's spraying out?
Maybe you should use that one.
Just look.
Jeez.
See? That one is already opened at the factory. I don't like that. However, to foam's defense, I've never had a problem with this being dry when I go to use it. I have with mucilage from Hobby King, which is similar. And you may have gotten glue tubes like this from a company, you know, when you get a plane. Occasionally they used to send them with glue, but then international shipping rules kind of prevented them from doing it. So this stuff is really good. Yes, you'll notice all the safety labels are mounted directly to the tube, whereas this one's made in the UK, so you have all the proper warnings. They're similar products, but they are not exactly the same, okay? They both work the same, in my experience, right? So grab a Q-tip out of your junk drawer that has tools in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, now open the tube. This one's already open, as you can see. If it wasn't open, you'd have to pierce it, and you can see it's already stringing out on me. Look, I'm just gonna apply kind of a liberal amount there, okay? Then I'm gonna take and just pull that string, because I don't wanna have that string going everywhere, and you can see it's on. Give them a close-up. That's why I hold it next to the camera.
Gross. Got it.
So this is the way that goes. Now, the thing I like most about this over CA is just for the simple fact that I can just spread it out and I don't have to worry about gluing my fingers together. And watch this. I'm even going to do it on purpose. Watch this. Oh my God. Oh man.
No.
Watch this.
I'm gonna have to cut your fingers apart.
It's a booger.
Gross.
It's a booger. Guys, if you ever had rubber cement as a kid, this reminds me almost identically to rubber cement. Now I'm gonna take this, and yes, that is a sticky stickum from a double-sided sticky tape, and I'm gonna put that on there, and I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm not gonna do anything fancy with it. I'm not gonna worry about it. And you wanna know why? See, these aluminized tubes, by the way, when you squish them, they pop out, you know, it comes out, and I'm barely squeezing it, right? My biggest complaint with this is that if you squeeze too much of it, what's gonna happen is it will continue to come out. So you gotta be a little bit careful with them. That being said, this stuff is pretty cheap. It's like $5 or $6 for a tube. I mean, you should just get some. Every time you order a plane, just get like a tube, okay? Now, I let this sit, and we want that to cook off. And then it turns into basically contact adhesive where you could stick it together. Like I could stick a finger amount, like the size of my fingertip, and I could put some on my finger and I could put some there, and I could let it sit for 2 minutes, and I could pick this entire finished plane up with it. I'm not gonna do it in this video because that would take too much time, but it is true. I'm not exaggerating at all. I exaggerate a lot, but not there. Okay, the truth is that stuff works awesome. It's like second to none, okay? So that being said, we've got that stuff there. And if you make a mistake with it and you're trying to remove it like from your finger, like I said, you can just wipe it off. Or, see, now it's getting really sticky. See that, how sticky it is? But there is a certain amount of oil in your human skin and it'll just rub right off, it's gone. And also clean your fingertips, which is nice. So if you work with your hands, you get oily marks in your fingers, things like that. But this stuff works really nice. It's reasonably inexpensive, and that is how they stick the halves of foam models together in China. Hence the name China Glue, okay? All right, great. It's not meant to be some sort of a racist thing any more than like Chinese food is, because Chinese food is delicious, and I have a wok. I actually do, and it's awesome. And I'm very proud of my walking skills. Okay, so I'm gonna stick that into the goodness. Okay, I could have waited longer, but I'm not gonna, and I'm just gonna leave it there. Now, you're probably thinking, but Brian, now you need to wait for like a whole day. No, you don't. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. You don't have to. You can wait for like 10 minutes if you want, but I have glued things and then immediately went back to flying. All right, so continuing along our build, I'm glad you caught that, camera crew. Good job.
That's what I'm here for.
We also have a wire that's gonna eventually end up in here. You're probably thinking, why are you putting a flap Y servo splitter on right now? Just because, you know, I'm dealing with this. I can do it right now and I won't forget. Ooh, S-bus PPM mode, okay? So if you have a serial bus, you can take all the other wires out and just connect everything through there to the reflex, which is nice. But in our case, we don't, and so we won't. And also you'll notice this one, like what the heck is that? Oh, that's ailerons, evidently. That's ailerons. They evidently ailerons, like it's just assumed that you know that. This is ailerons from your receiver. This is rudder from your receiver. This is throttle from your receiver. Well, why do we have a flap servo? Oh, or a splitter. That's because there is no flap that connects through the reflex because it's just a regular servo. Okay, makes sense? All right, good deal. We'll come back to that. All right, so the assembly of this model will go relatively smooth. It should be a relatively easy application. Obviously, now that we have our shelf liner installed, you know, you can take your battery, you can install your battery with just one Velcro strap. And we have learned from our experience with doing tons and tons and tons and tons of planes that if it takes too much effort to actually plug in a battery, you won't use the plane very often, which sounds ridiculous, but it's 100% true. Okay, watch. Battery slide into hole. Strap come undone. See this? Watch this. See this? My hands are human hand size. See that? Nice, high quality, gigantic strap. You could put a battery that's 10 times as big in this. This is actually way too big. It may not actually work. Look at this. That's ridiculous. Look at this. I'm gonna run out of.
You're gonna be able to tighten it.
I'm not gonna be able to tighten it. What the heck were they thinking? Okay, so if you have a strap that ends up being too big, which I'm not saying this one for sure is, you can try turning your battery to go to the vertical axis. That might help give us a little more height, but you can't because of the foam. What the heck were they thinking? Okay, so watch this. I'm gonna pull this. I know I'm blocking you, just the way it's gonna have to be, I'm sorry. So I slid this D-ring stuff thing. Look at this. It doesn't start Velcro until in front of my index finger. So you got a 1/4 inch of Velcro going through there. So that's where a bag of tricks like this comes in handy, guys. If you've got a bag of tricks like I do, and most of you do, you'll have something else in your bag of tricks. Potentially like, say, this FMS strap, which is maybe a little bit more appropriately long. And you could maybe just try to swap it out. Some of them are like super, super long, and some of them are kind of not. What the heck is this? Why did I keep that?
What is that?
It's like an FMS. I could put like an FMS.
Why did you keep that?
I don't know. Rich must have had it. Oh, that's right. So you see this one is much smaller. I don't understand why they didn't use one this length. That's like way too huge.
That is way too big.
So if you guys have one that's smaller, I'm gonna show you one trick. This will work, okay? Just to be clear, I'm just gonna show you it working, okay? So it's working. Now watch, that's the smaller of the two sizes that we're recommending. Okay, it's not moving, it's not coming out, that's always handy. I'm gonna actually undo this. I'm gonna show you the trick of the day, guys. There's a lot of trick of the days on Brian Phillips RC. Sometimes they're better tricks and sometimes they're worse tricks. In this case, this trick will probably be somewhere in the middle. So if you have forceps, then forceps make this very easy. What you wanna do is go to your junk drawer in your kitchen, right next to your kitchen things, where you keep all the hundreds of chargers and transmitters.
Yeah.
And then you grab your forceps. So borrow those from the Doobie Brothers. Just gonna grab this, pull up. Just pull it up like this until it comes out. Like this. Now I don't wanna pull it all the way out because I'm not into working hard. So now I'm just gonna double check that the length of these is not the same exact length. That looks dangerously similar.
No, that one's shorter.
This one shorter?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're saying so, then I'm gonna take your word for it. Now, the trick of the day is gonna be pretty basic. I want that Velcro going out, okay? So I need to somehow tie these together if I'm gonna try to take advantage of the pull, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to pull this back through. Let's see if I can do it this way first and see if I can get it to go through, because then I can just pull the other one out. It's gonna be probably a pain in the butt. Let's see if it goes. Come on. Oh, I'm too too far up. See, I'll have to stick that way down there so that it's further through. I'm gonna see if I can grab this one. It may not even, oh, you know, we could take the battery out for this maybe. But you guys see what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to feed it through because it's a nightmare to feed these things through. When you have to, you have to. And I've had to before, but usually not. And do you guys like how this,
Nice.
Yeah, that would have been nice earlier too, when I started this stuff.
I am filming, you know.
Oh, you're holding the camera, that's true. I forgot about that detail. Okay, I'm on the other side now. Okay, So you see what happened? I didn't line up straight enough. So folks, on Brian Phillips RC, we do it in front of you, but that doesn't always mean that we're experts. Okay, so sliding that through. Once we get this thing to round the bend, that's what I'm struggling with. Oh yeah, come on, you can do it. You see it's right there.
Is your shelf liner piece in the way?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, you son of a biscuit lover. Okay. Let go.
Okay.
So now the other option is you just slide it through the good old fashioned way, but I'm committed now.
Okay.
I know the camera crew is giving me the side eye right now for good reason, okay? For very good reason, because that was not very fun, and the reason it wasn't fun is because it's tight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go a little bit further, and then I'm gonna try to get it down there. Yeah, like that. All right, folks, don't try this at home, except actually do. Do definitely try this at home. Oh, goodness gracious. Now, forcep time. Forcep action, guys. Watch this. Grab it. Come on. Come on. This is why I like it when the Chinese manufacturers do this in China, so I don't have to. Okay. They can't make Kung Pao chicken and send it though. It would be cold, I think.
Yeah, a little soggy. I don't know why they use such an excessively big strap though.
I know. Like what did they think we were putting a
They
7,000
knew what
milliamp hour battery
they
in
were
here?
gonna use. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes stuff like that just baffles the mind, and we're left kind of putting the pieces back together. But that's why you watch Brian Phillips RC. So thank you, China, for making a lucrative career for me of working around your choices of straps. If you would have told me just 5 short years ago, while we were already doing this, would you believe that I'd be working with you to replace Chinese strap-ons?
Nope, I wouldn't.
Really? Okay. All right. I'm glad.
Certainly not on camera, at least.
Well, I mean, we on our private, in our private time,
Right.
we could Chinese strap-ons. So, if you guys are new to the channel, Brian Phillips RC here. This is my wife, the camera crew, and we do things on camera that nobody does. And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pause as I say a few special words to this plane that are not good for camera audience. See, like I said, it'll work perfect. I flipped it 90 degrees. Whoops. So now that that's in there, this goes through. You pull it tight onto the battery, and you can see we've already got the fuzz right there, guys. So now we can get way more contact area. I just pull a little teeny bit. Wherever we want that battery, pull a little teeny bit, and then we slide that down. So now I've got like this whole surface is now Velcroed together, whereas before I was getting like that much of it touching.
Right.
So that is just ridiculous. Okay, good. So we've got that resolved. It's a little better. That was a pain. I didn't expect it to be a pain. My apologies, anybody who watched that suffrage. You'll understand where we're coming from, because at the end of the day, if it's hard to load a battery, you're going to tend to not fly the plane. And then also, I just want to talk about this. If this thing slips around on you, you got to be mindful. We did all that hoopla there, so I accidentally bumped my reflex. You do have to have that reflex positioned correctly, and because it is spatially aware. And I find myself doing more of this than I meant to at this point of the video, but that's fine. It's just kind of the way it goes. This yellow wire is going to have to come off and go to the receiver. So that's why I'm sort of trying to get it to the same length while we're in the midst of it. This is going to be for our thrust reverse. Okay. So speaking of, we should have thrust reverse or mode as a choice. Now, this doesn't always allow for thrust reverse, but generally speaking, if you see it, the Predator ESC will allow for thrust reverse. Okay. So I'm just going to assume at this point that that's true. In this case, as it has been in previous cases. And then of course, these are the ailerons that are going out to the wing and not necessarily to the receiver, okay? So while we've got this kind of in a compromising position, I think I might do a little bit of cable management, and the cable management might take a little bit of effort, But I think what I'll do is I'll probably tie this up with a zip tie or two while we're at this stage of the game. And when I say a zip tie or two, I'm just thinking along the lines of something to secure that small wire to the bulk of the rest of the wires, if that makes sense. Yeah, the yellow wire for the thrust reverse. And we're also probably going to eliminate our mode once we set the mode, and then that's going to become our thrust reverse control, which we'll show you exactly how to do that after we're done struggling through the rest of the otherwise very easy things that I make harder than they have to be. Hopefully that made sense to everybody watching based on the last 10 minutes of the video. And yeah, these are not side cutters, but I don't want to get cut constantly, so I'm going to use this to clip. Watch this, guys. If you've never done this, you can clip them really clean. Or you can use strippers that are smaller, or side cutters that are smaller than something like this, where you end up with like a really sharp edge. Ow, ow, ow. Okay.
Okay.
Was that a good demonstration,
That was
folks? All right, so now that we got that done, we should be able to get back to work on the assembly of the plane. I have found, ironically enough, and yes, I am gonna show you this also. This is the ESC, and it's obviously got an XT60, and then this is an IC3, so it's actually got a different style. We don't use any data pin on an XT60, or in this application, there is no data transmission. This is a smart battery. It has a data transmitter as well as the positive and negative discharge lead, okay? So I'll just show you that it'll plug in. We can do this with confidence because we don't care if that were to start. I'm not worried about it because I don't have a prop to chop my hand, okay? So we're just gonna lay that back down in there. Shouldn't really cause any grief for us. But as we move through the build, now we have our battery ready to rock and roll. We have this ready to rock and roll, and then we have this nice little bundle ready to rock and roll in just mere moments. I'm actually gonna pull back just a hair on there. There we go, much better. All right, so guys, cable management is one of those things that everybody does to their own taste, to their own level of. All right, now that we've got that taken care of, we're gonna put the landing gear on. This is gonna be the first next step.
Step one.
So landing gear, and by the way, guys, when you see me struggle through things, I know you're pointing and laughing, and that's fine. We're laughing together. That's the way I'm thinking.
We're hoping.
We didn't use a butter knife, okay? Give me a break. Screw hole, okay? There's some sort of Chinese residue on there. I don't know what it is. I don't want to find out. Please don't tell me. That goes there.
Okay.
Okay, pretty simple. That's also the same piece that would go there if you were doing that for floats, okay?
Yep.
Now, in these bags, there's a series of things. There's one bag, there's another bag. These bags are for floats. They would go over here, which interestingly enough, the camera crew was like, those are for floats. And I'm like, yeah, but they're a part that I would always install. Watch. See this? They come out. Plastic components that act as clips, I always install, okay? You guys should do the same thing. Why? Because these are the types of things that are very easy to lose, okay? So now, even though I'm not putting floats on, I'm gonna have all those pieces of hardware mounted and installed, understanding fully well that they don't do anything. Now look, there's a bunch of set screws in this bag. Those are also easy to lose, but I can't really do much with them. So those ones I am forcibly going to storage. Goodness gracious, almost lost them. So those are gonna go right here, and they will eventually end up, usually I stretch wrap around, and then I put the metal hardware, and then I stretch wrap, and then I write like Kingfisher, 1.4 meter. And it makes it very easy and enjoyable to be able to go find them from my shelf of floats. Now, speaking of one of the biggest problems that we have in this hobby, and that is that airplanes are big, and they do take up storage space, okay? If you're like me, and you've got a lot of them, you're always looking for ways to make things fit where you want them to fit. Okay, so these are just, so you know, 2 millimeters. So 2 millimeter drive. So if you have floats and you have a lot of float planes take up a lot more room than a landing gear plane. And skis take up even less room than a landing gear plane. But the plane that takes up the least room is a plane that you don't have, which is the one your wife wants you to have. Okay?
Yes.
So what you want to do is you want to find the happy medium and make sure that you store your planes in a way that's out of the way enough that she doesn't notice them, because there was snakes in that room that one day.
Out of the way?
Listen.
Oh, not you.
I mean, you didn't see
Them.
a snake over there that day. It was bad. It was huge. That snake was giant, scary, and it breathed fire.
Yeah, sure did.
So I'm just saying from personal experience, you want to, it's not like happy wife, happy life, because, I mean, if they're happy, you probably wouldn't have any, but we're trying to work within the boundaries that's been set before us for those of you that have taken the marriage vows, okay? Glad we got that all out of the way. That's really helpful.
It was.
I'm sure everybody at home is saying, yes, Brian, I agree.
Just when you start out, tell your wife you need like
One high wing, one
one low
EDF
wing
jet.
and then one jet.
And that's all you're
You'll
gonna
be
need.
good.
You won't want any new ones that come out.
6S batteries. Who needs
No,
6S batteries?
that's crazy.
way too
That's for
big.
nuts.
No, never need that.
And I mean, it's not like we had a conversation that was virtually exactly the same as
This
that.
one transmitter will do everything I need.
It's the only one you're ever going to need. Which, truthfully, for transmitters, you can get a transmitter that's going to do
can.
most of what you need.
You really could.
By the way, full disclosure, I've got a lot of transmitters. That's the NX10. It is like the very smack dab middle of the line card of the normal, and then you've got like the iX20 that lives over there somewhere. Okay?
Yeah.
And the iX20, like, what is it, like DD or something like that? Or
No, SE, the special
SE, yeah, the
edition,
SE.
whatever.
It's like,
Yeah.
that one lives way over there. It's over there.
Yeah.
It's expensive
It's like
over
in
there.
the next
And then over here, you've got like the DXE, and the
DXS.
DXS that
Yeah.
come with ready-to-fly planes. And in the Spectrum lineup, this is firmly in the lower half in the upper portion of the lower half.
Upper lower half.
Upper of the lower half.
Yeah.
Okay. And it does everything that my DX18 would do and a lot more. And I had a DX18, and yes, I loved it, and yes, it was amazing, and I still have it. And no, I won't sell it to you. Thank you.
Even though you're not
I know you're thinking, don't ask. So the answer is no. But I never used more than 10 channels.
Nope.
Full disclosure. Now, nowadays I would, because we have the access to the higher channels.
Right.
So, you can actually go up way higher than 10 channels and use controls like mode and gain and things like that, which is really nice. Okay. That's a nice looking plane, I gotta say. We're not gonna put it down yet though. You know why? Because I have to put the tail wheel on. I think this plane's gonna look cool with skis too, so we may have to try that just for fun. Now, I just wanna talk about the penetration here, guys. You take it, you stick it in. A long ways, right?
That looks a little tight.
Yeah, that is not going through. Is that where that's supposed to go?
Yeah.
Here, just so they can make sure. Here, you stick it in.
Is it? Well, I'm not as experienced in these things. That does not seem.
I just wondered if it was me. All right, guys, this will be the first time we've ever had to modify an FMS
Well,
model.
hold on. We better look and make sure we're not putting it in the wrong hole.
Well, listen, if you put it in the wrong hole, it's too tight. I mean, all you got to do is just open it up a little, right?
Wait. Look.
What? What?
Does it go in the side first?
What the heck? What the heck is going on here?
What goes in that hole then?
This is long. Okay.
You stick it way up there.
I'm so confused. It goes in there, doesn't it? There is nothing there that it comes off.
Wait a minute.
What are they talking about? This is crazy. Normally, it obviously goes through. I mean, it's not like you can stick it through the side, like. Boop, 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 boop.
Okay. Well,
So look.
Try harder.
Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, it's not going.
I'm confused.
I haven't cut anything for a long time.
Please don't cut yourself.
That's exactly what I was talking about, guys, in case you were wondering. Yeah, so I just cut some stuff out there. Let's see if that's enough. Oh yeah, it's feels very tight, very tight. And this is most definitely correct, isn't it? Oh! Jeez. Okay, now it's totally threw
Did you
it.
put it the right way?
That totally doesn't line up the way I expect it would. Look, it needs to slide back. See this? Look, watch. Oh yeah, there it is. Perfect.
Awkward.
That was like the weirdest tail assembly we've done since the Horizon Hobby Ultra Stick.
Oh, that was
That
weird
one was
too.
a pain too.
You should have bought that tail wheel dinner first. That was awkward.
I'm so confused. The commentary. It's getting real off track here, camera crew.
Sorry.
Let me clean it up. Clean it up for the kids in the audience.
This is not a new release.
We don't have to worry about anybody getting fired today. Okay, all right, guys. Back to the topic at hand. We are going to stick it in the hole, tighten it, then we're going to do it again. There's two of them. Relax, there's two.
No, I was trying to figure out the control horn setup.
This
but
is
I
like
got it
popping
figured
up out, and it's making me nervous, so I'm going to just hurry and get this one done. Do you guys see what I'm fighting? It's kind of wanting to pop up on me. Ugh, it's just kind of a weird fit. Weird fitment. But it's working, I think, maybe. I think. Oh no, I screwed it up. Look, I think that's supposed to be down there. That's why it was popping. I was like, what the heck is going on? This assembly is weird. Folks, you come to Brian Phillips first so you can see what not to do. Then you avoid that thing. Oh yeah, look at that. That might be where, I think that's where that goes now. Yeah, don't you know? Don't you?
I don't, obviously.
I don't also. Okay, we're just gonna tighten this here a little bit yet. Oh yeah, don't you know? Oh yeah, look at that, that's fancy. Okay, so I don't see how that could possibly cause a problem for anybody. All right, so let's backtrack. If you're new to the hobby, there's lots of weirdities that you're gonna run into when you're putting things like this together. And I gotta say, oh look, here, look. This thing hooked down and around. See this? See that?
Oh.
That's kind of nice to know. I feel like...
Hey, before you screw all that back together, are
What?
we gonna have to put the
Oh, son of a
elevator in
biscuit.
first?
Wait, how the heck would that even work?
Or do you have to put that in first?
You do
and
have
then-
to have it in.
And you have to go through more holes.
More editing.
Start that up.
Okay, so we'll be back and show you the correct order. So we pulled the cover off. I'm gonna slide this out. Now, yes, this was an obvious gaffe. We very obviously did that on purpose as a teachable moment on what not to do here on Brian Phillips
Do you have to take
RC.
it all the way out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you could have left it stuck in there halfway, but we got to put the tail on at some point, okay? Which is embarrassing that our video made it look so realistic that that was done, wasn't
was
done
planned-
on purpose.
planned
See
ahead.
this clip here? There's a, oh yeah, wow.
You'll hear a snap.
Snap. I did not hear a snap. All I heard was me trying to make excuses for a poorly executed penetration.
But now you have to get through.
That would have, okay, so come back over here. I want to show you something. Now there is a channel by which you're passing it through. Oh yeah, right there. See? If you go too deep, it's gonna be okay, but that does, if you get up on this ridge, I gotta point this out because I ran into this. There's a ridge right there. You need to be at least below it. You can be anywhere in this area, but if you're down too low, you're gonna hit. That's not a good thing either, okay? So let's go like that, and then we'll just drop this thing back on. So folks, you know, sometimes the simplest, easiest assemblies are not as easy as you think they should be, and that's just part of building RC aircraft. To be honest with you, if you've ever designed one from scratch and tried to make it fly, then you'll understand it's not near as easy as it looks, and so I try not to beat up the manufacturers when they do weird things. Although I have to admit, once you've done it once, this would be pretty easy. But let's come back to that for a second. How many times are you gonna build this plane? You gonna just like build it over and over again?
Once.
Like 50 times?
No.
That's why you watch Brian.
think-
That's why you watch Brian screwed up first.
I think that's why they send an instruction manual.
What's that? I'm just kidding. We look through the instruction manual, people. I know we joke about that a lot, but we actually do. Come here. Look, elevator up, elevator down. Look at the rub.
Is that it? That does not seem okay. Oh, geez.
Yeah, exactly. See that? I don't like that at all.
Oh, it needs an elevator.
Ian doesn't
looks like
think
a
so.
well-tuned
Well-tuned
sailplane.
sailplane. Doesn't need no stinking elevator. Okay, these things we're not installing yet. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna work it in. I'm gonna work it in. I'm gonna work it in. Now it's bottomed out. Now I'm gonna work it out. Okay, just like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this thing. Why do we do this? Well, because we don't want them to come off in flight, which probably wouldn't happen on a plane like this, maybe on an SU-27 or something like that.
Maybe.
Like asking for a friend for the details on that transaction. When you run this through, you're gonna thread the hole, okay? That's why I have you running it in and out, because a lot of times they come from chain and they're not reamed out very good, okay? So now look, we have an extra screw, look, right there. And then we have all these clippy doohickeys. What the heck are those for?
I don't know, maybe the person that read the manual knows.
I know what they're for. Step one, stick it in. Like this, watch, boom. Yeah. This plane stand is no longer needed. I'm just gonna lay it in our office without lots of other amazing RC products for review soon. Okay, then the second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide that crap out of the way. I am gonna go ahead and penetrate the airframe first, just like this. Okay, looks pretty good. I obviously centered that perfectly.
Definitely.
Okay. Now I'm gonna take a wing. I'm gonna take a wing like this. And I'm gonna take the servo wires out of this pocket. Heck. Oh, they had them glued in there a little bit. Okay, so one's marked flapped and one is marked nothing. Okay. So it's convenient when they do the nothing marks. Then I'm gonna slide it onto here. Very nice. Then I'm gonna try to stick these right into there. And just hold that shaft. Slide that right through. Pretty simple, basic stuff. That's why it takes so much effort to do it. It's simple and basic. Okay. Once you cram it in the hole, you know what's really hard to show on camera is when you need to be where the camera crew is and you are filming a video, and so you're like, oh yeah. No, I want to show the people something.
Okay.
Look at that. That's pretty good. That was why the camera crew was where I needed to be.
Never ever leads to any sort of
Never leads to conflict at all.
Ever.
Ever. That is amazing that it doesn't tip over.
Yeah, it is.
That's good though. I like it. Okay, so now we're gonna take this thing. See this thing? It's called a wing. We're gonna slide it in just like we did the other one, but they didn't tangle these up, so this Johnny, the new guy.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah. Okay, so pretty easy stuff. And I'm gonna go ahead and just squiggle it right into that tight hole right here. It's usually easier if it's hard or stiff, but this one is not stiff because it's not been tangled and dangled. Camera crew's gonna take her hand and hold that and then just slide it ever so slightly. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, there you go. Good job. Now watch this, guys. Not even gonna look at the bottom. I'm just gonna grab the wings and watch this. Okay, now we're gonna come back over here. We've got these fancy dancy forceps. You can do any number of things with this. But what we're gonna do with it right now is we're gonna grab those wires. We're gonna pull them. Yeah, that's not the right wire, Brian. We're gonna pull them. That's the white, that's one. There you go, right there. Oh, good Lord.
Wow, that is really short.
Okay, I'm just not gonna make any comment about the shortness. I don't wanna make it feel.
Wait.
This is a flap.
But that one's not a flap.
That one's a flap. What the frick? Okay, this is the aileron. Okay, camera crew, as usual, has to come in here and be Miss Smarty Pants, who knows everything, and tell me not to do the wrong thing.
Sorry.
Okay, Why didn't you tell me not to change the strap?
I did.
Brown is toward the camera crew, who is correct most of the time. Okay, see? Brown to brown. That's an aileron. Did I tell you about those snakes I found in the living room the other day? Here's the flap. Goodness gracious, where's my aileron plug? I have to pop this out. I'm guessing my aileron plug got trapped somehow. What are you doing over there?
I don't know. I was trying not to be in the way.
No, just please film. I'm pressing the button like this.
Yep.
And I heard it pop.
Yep.
What the heck?
It's
Are you kidding me?
Short.
I might have damaged the wire. Guys, see this? Look.
Oh no.
I'm not sure. We're gonna have to see. If this aileron doesn't work, that was due to improper penetration. Guess who was pressing?
Ooh, luckily not me that time.
Are you kidding me? This was you. I mean, I was the one that told you to push it in. Oh, that's true. Yeah, you missed the mark by 30 seconds.
Yep.
Take your hand away.
Okay.
I'm just like super annoyed with this assembly. This particular step. Oh, for God's sake.
Do you want me to hold it up?
I want you to have held it up.
Okay.
Thank you. If you're not married, you don't understand that last comment, guys. Or mind reading. You're obviously not married.
I can see it, so I want to make sure it's pulling through.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull it as I go.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys see what I'm concerned about?
Yep.
Obviously, there is a plastic mechanism there. And I don't wanna accidentally rip my cable in half, but like it gets to a point where you can't see.
Right.
And then you just hope to God you got it in the hole. Okay, so now I can take this and plug in the other Y cable. Now the other thing you could do is you could stick those out the wing, which would be super awkward, and then you could try to plug them in outside. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know that that's real super easy to do. Now, the orange wire that was crushed is actually the signal wire. So we may get power and we may get ground, but we may not get signal to this aileron. And if that's the case, then I'll have to take this apart and refix that somehow. Probably by splicing the wires or something like that, I don't know. I'm gonna untangle this flap wire right now. Because remember, this wing was it was like twisted by the more experienced builder or whatever at the factory. So now we have flap that's going to go into brown to brown, brown to brown. You may have noticed that I cover this with my human hands. Sometimes when I'm plugging wires together, I don't mean to make your life difficult, but brown to brown, okay. Then this one here, same thing. This says flap. So I'm gonna assume that it is the flap and not the aileron, which would make better sense that the longer leads would be the flap, or excuse me, that the longer leads would be the ailerons and the shorter leads would be the flaps, but I'm guessing they're probably wrong, but we'll find out later. Also, this decal makes me nervous. You see, it's gonna buzz like crazy.
Oh, it is.
Like the Dickens. See this? Because that's just paint, and that's a sticker. See that?
Yeah.
Very weird choice of sticker location. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, anyway, all right. We're getting there.
Okay. We are.
It's just taking more effort than I want it to take. And admittedly, because I am a perfectionist, and yet I still manage to chop my cable nearly in half. So if that's your variety of perfectionism, count me in. I feel like that just has to go the other side, so I'm gonna put it on the other side. This is Cable Management 101. Make it look good, work your way until you're done. Eventually, someday, you'll be able to tell if it actually worked. All right, so now we can't put these in yet because we don't have a receiver in there, so there's really no sense in hooking up a servo tester just to do that, because the servo tester is going to do the exact same thing as basically hooking up the receiver, and that's all going to happen at the same time. We just don't want to lose those, so we'll lay those aside. We could actually build the prop at any time we wanted, but we need to do this too. These things, ugh, I'm just getting a sinking feeling that I might have needed to have those installed. No, probably not. Okay, look. This goes down. Okay. And then up, I guess. I don't know. Can't tell. Okay. Pretty simple stuff. That's simple and basic. We have to do that on either side. Now, if you guys are in the unfortunate circumstance where you have to take everything apart every time you go somewhere to fly, then this plane will actually give you the capability. I would suggest going from front to back, just for the simple fact that if something were to come free, it's probably a little bit more likely that it would come free. You know, you don't want to lose it. This will just push it in further.
Push it more. Yeah.
But it's you know, I've never had a pin like this pop out, ever. Right?
Nope, not on a plane.
So. And it is nice that you can take it apart, but at the same time, I don't want to have to. So my guess is we probably won't ever. Okay. Pretty easy assembly. They are ambidextrous, which I didn't know that at first, but now I have confirmed it. And it does force a bead of dihedral into the wing. Okay. Which is kind of cool. I didn't know that was going to happen. So that's going to both be under tension and compression at different types of the flight. Or it's going to be under tension or compression depending on the maneuver that you're doing. So that's pretty cool. And that's why I believe they probably went ahead and used just a carbon fiber, or instead of a carbon fiber wing spar, they used a fiberglass wing spar. Okay, so there you go. All right, so we're getting close, guys. Getting close. This thing's almost put together. All right, so now over front, camera crew is going to watch me put this prop together. Now, I just want to talk about this. If you're unsure of yourself, stop right here. Don't put the prop on. Don't get cut. Turn around, don't drown. Octagonal drive. Slides on. Spinner goes first. Then the prop. The prop comes around until it bumps into that surface. So you have a nice tight fit. And I'm assuming there's a nut that goes, but I guess I'm not 100% certain of that. Yeah, I don't...
Well, something's got to hold it on.
Where are my nuts? It's not the spinner. The spinner doesn't hold it on, does it? I didn't see a nut. Did we miss a nut or a bolt sack?
I didn't see a nut. There was a prop diagram. Look.
Uh-oh. What?
Is it just
oh,
that
it
thing that
spins
screws
on.
on?
It's a screw-on style.
Wow, that's
Oh,
weird.
that is. We've seen them before, but it's a little bit unusual. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. So if it's a screw-on style, then this is going to actually slide back. Okay, and at this point, you're like, that doesn't seem sturdy enough. Well, it is. Ah, there it is.
Oh, it's in there. Okay.
So then this just spins, I guess, until eventually it gets tight. That is bizarro. And yet it still seems to work. Kind of.
Can you like tighten it?
Yeah. Maybe. I just have a hard time hanging on to it though, this is the problem. Oh, that worked pretty good.
I did.
I didn't know that was going to be useful for that.
Another use for forceps.
Okay, so let's talk about safety for a minute. Two things in this hobby that can leave you injured, okay? Well, there's a bunch, but most people don't actually get injured in this hobby. The people that do get injured get cut by props. They have lipo issues that cause dangerous conditions, whether it be in their house or their garage or, you know, usually it comes from neglecting batteries, charging them, letting them sit forever, or discharging them way too fast and putting them in dangerous circumstances. And then you end up with risk of fire. So don't be either of those people. The best way to not get cut when dealing with props is to not have props installed on the plane while you're doing radio setup, okay? We have done hundreds and hundreds of planes, and I know you're gonna have some people that say you should still not have the prop on. Congratulations, this is not nanny state. This is Brian Phillips.
You don't have to put your prop on until you're ready.
Don't put the prop on if you're not ready. Don't blame me if you get cut. I will not blame you if I cut myself on accident. I have been cut one time in the entire time I've been doing this, and it was on an ultra micro, thankfully. and I was doing some crazy setup. So really this next move, we start transitioning into the radio setup portion of the Unbox build radio setup. So we've done a little bit of radio setup already. Obviously we have these 2 mechanical pieces to install, and we have the canopy off, or the hood, or whatever you want to call that, the front half. And then we have some forceps, which will help to make this a little easier. Now, we've talked about the batteries earlier. We talked about 2200 3S. This happens to be a 30C. They call out a 35C. 2200 4S. That's our backup plan if we need more power. I don't know that we will. I kind of doubt we will. I bet this plane's probably going to be pretty zippy and do just fine on 3S. But our next move is to set up the radio setup profile that's going to be called out when we bind the plane and the transmitter. So this is a receiver. It's actually a transceiver, even though it doesn't have full telemetry. It does have some telemetry. And this is a transceiver, but it's actually called a transmitter within the ranks of the hobby, okay? So this is actually the receiver, or the RX. This is the TX, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get this thing wired up, and the way we wire it is based on how we set up our profile. So in order to set up the profile, we have to know what plane surfaces we're gonna be working with, what the plane's surfaces are gonna be, what type of engine, what type of motor, what type of, you know, is it differential thrust? Are we gonna do crow? Are we gonna do anything fancy? In our case, we know that we're probably gonna set up thrust reverse if we can make it work. And I'll show you how to test that as part of this video. I'll show you how to set it up as part of this video, but you have to use your best judgment with thrust reverse, because thrust reverse can be a double-edged sword, quite literally, with regard to getting cut and with regard to having the plane go in an unusual direction. Planes going backward is a little bit unusual, okay, on the ground. So just use your best judgment. Again, we have the NX10. We're gonna get started on our profile. So we're gonna turn on our transmitter. It's gonna come up with the last plane that we had worked on. It does take a long time since the last update, and I have a ton of planes, okay? So the Cherokee 1.3, cancel them back, scroll to add new model, create it, it's an acro. Takes a long time when you got a million planes. I've got like 200 and something. I'm getting close to the limit here. That's gonna suck when we have to start deleting planes, because we'll have to go through and find duplicates and stuff.
Yeah, there's a few.
Okay, so then you can go to model select. That's where we just came from, model type. We already set that. If you change this, it resets your model. This is the model name, so it's not acro, it's gonna be Kingfisher, so we're gonna scroll that in and come right back. All right, so FMS Kingfisher 1.4 meter, they call it 1400 millimeters, same difference. Always put your size class, because you'll end up with another one as soon as you think you want. Aircraft type, we're gonna have a 1 aileron and 1 flap. Now, if you were setting this up for crow, which means you would lose reflex on one of the 2 ailerons, then you could actually go like 2 ailerons and 1 flap, okay? You wouldn't do it that way. You would do it that way, okay? But in our case, we're 1 aileron channel and 1 flap channel. Standard tail, we'll select an image. I think we're gonna end up looking like the Carbon Cub, like that, okay. Good enough. Now, flight mode setup is not a thing necessarily in this mode, because we are going to probably use all 6 of our channels. Let's talk about the channels real quick before we continue. We've got throttle, elevator, rudder, in no particular order, by the way. Ailerons, flaps. We were gonna do mode, but we'll do thrust reverse. Okay, so mode's gonna get preset by the thrust reverse channel, which in our case will be the gear channel, probably, just channel 5.
Yeah, probably.
Because then we can use flaps on whatever
6.
flaps. Yeah, 6. Well,
That's
we'll see what it, yeah.
Default to.
So we'll just continue down. So channel assign, so aux1 is not applicable, because there it's already gonna be pre-designated for flaps. I wanna unassociate that key there. But then I wanna change this from A to switch G, because I don't want my A switch to be setting my thrust reverse, because I use G over here because I don't go to it as often, okay? That's a safety issue. We'll talk about it more later. Okay, and then basically we're done on here. We can go back out. Now we can set our timer. First things first, throttle cut. Set that to switch H in my case. I'm gonna look at this. It's on and working because it stays at minus 100. Now that's off and it starts working. The throttle's moving, okay? So now throttle cut's on and it's working. Then I'm gonna go into flap system. I'm gonna attach that to switch B, but I'm gonna leave it neutral. I'm gonna just go a little bit on each direction, and I'm not gonna set any of the elevator, and we're gonna make sure we're in the middle setting, okay? So if there's a problem, I can quickly clear it or quickly clear it, okay? So I'm gonna just go to the middle. It's probably gonna stick like about halfway down, okay? Now also we wanna set this speed to 2 seconds. That's about what we want. We did do any elevator correction. We'll come back. We didn't do any elevator correction because we can't actually do that until we have the flaps working. We don't know what direction they're gonna move. And timer, we'll just go ahead and set this to, it's probably gonna be like 10 minutes or better. And I'm gonna just do a 1 out. That means that anything over 25% is gonna start the timer. It's gonna count down from there, regardless of throttle position. At 1 minute, I want a voice. At 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice. And at expiration, I want a tone and vibrate with a tone every minute thereafter. And then we'll be ready to bind. Now, we don't have to actually bind because we can go over here and see where things plug in now. So this is the monitor. So I'm just scroll over, throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, gear, flap. So gear is not actually gear. It's gonna be thrust reverse, but that's okay. We'll talk about setting that up here in a minute too. But we need to use gear first to set our mode. And then once we get our mode set, we can disconnect that cable and we no longer need it because we're always gonna fly. Okay, so let's talk about modes real quick. We have auto leveling, off, and similar to AS3X, it'd be stabilizer. So the stabilizer, off, stabilized, and auto leveling are the 3 choices. Or you can have it off if you don't want it at all, but then just take the reflex out and have it gone. There's no reason to have it in there otherwise. Okay, so we're gonna pop this thing out of the package. Once it's out, you'll notice there's no external antenna on this. This is 620. The 620 is a pretty basic receiver. It's 6 channels. It does have some super basic telemetry functions on it. And when I say super basic, you'll understand. I think it gives you receiver voltage, but that's about it. I don't even know if it gives you that for sure. But either way, I wouldn't worry about it because don't plan on getting a lot of telemetry. Okay, so now we can start plugging things in as we know where they go. So flaps we know is on channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's obviously gonna go into here. So how do we know where the positive and the negative goes? Well, how do you know what the positive and negative is? Brown is down. So brown is negative, signal is orange or yellow, and red is positive. So you can't short this out by plugging it in wrong. Now, how do you tell where the negative is? You can look where it would be silk screened. If they would silk screen it, negative is down, plus, and signal. Camera crew is going to try to get the angle of the dangle there. You can't look at it straight on. You have to get the glare.
There's the glare. Yep.
You guys see signals up, minus is down, plus is in the middle.
Yep.
So, and I already knew that, but I'm just showing you guys where to find it. If you're brand new to the hobby, you're watching Brian Phillips RC. We're just a regular family and with a regular husband that loves airplanes and a regular wife that tolerates them. Welcome to the channel. We'll help you get in the air. We'll help you avoid the pitfalls of the hobby, which usually comes in the form of getting the wrong plane at the wrong time for the wrong reasons and failing, and then never coming back. We want to avoid that because we want you in the hobby with us. We'll help you get there. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to support us, buy them from the links in the video description below. Rudder. Okay, so rudder is right here. Throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. So channel 4. So we'll just go over to channel 4, and we'll just make sure the yellow is up. So that's channel 6, 5, 4. They're lined up perfectly, as you can see. Ha, 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 ha.
Totally.
Just a joke. Okay, then we're going to grab whatever we get next. Okay, one of these is going to be, okay, that's S-Bus PPM mode. Okay, so we can plug that into channel 5 for now. That's going to be our gear channel. And so we can toggle that to the right mode, and then we'll eliminate this and replace it with this yellow, but only in the top signal channel, okay? So now you could also use more channels on your receiver. You could go to the 8020T, and that would give you 8 channels. So you could do crow, and you could do thrust reverse, and you could do mode, but that's not really necessary in my opinion on this plane, because once we turn on stabilizer, that's where I'm gonna have it anyway. Elevator is on channel 1, 2, 3. You guys see that? Channel 1, 2, 3. So remember, we want the elevator yellow is up, and I'm kind of paying attention to this bundle back here, how this stuff kind of comes out. In fact, I'm gonna come, no, I'll do elevator right now. Channel 2. So channel 2.
No, channel 3.
Channel 3. Sorry, my apologies, folks. 3 before 4. Okay, throttle's channel 1. And again, if you guys don't understand what I'm doing to get that number, I'm just looking down at the monitor screen, which you can just scroll to the right once on your Spectrum transmitter. So throttle's on channel 1. I'm just doing cable management as we go. So just making sure I don't have like big tangles in them as we go. Okay, so this one is aileron. So aileron's channel 2. Yellow's up. You're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, you make it look easy. Well, if you're new to this hobby and you think this looks easy, just wait until you see a plane that's tight. This is actually pretty easy, okay? We will help you so that this is easy for you too. But sometimes the easiest way to get this to be easy is to do it hard a few times, okay? You'll eventually get there. You'll be able to handle it. It's no big deal. Now, this is a potentially dangerous spot. So I don't like having to plug wires in when I'm in a tight area like this. And so for that reason, I'm just going to kind of leave that out. I already know I need to get back in there. I'm gonna wrap this wire around just so it doesn't fall. And I don't want anything to come back in front. I also don't know what direction this is gonna go, so I'm assuming it's gonna be producing thrust, so it's gonna wanna come toward me. So I need to have my area. I need to test my spot, make sure I have plenty of clearance between the prop and where my hand is gonna be, and then just kind of test things. Once we trust the system, then we can operate around it and we can do it with some level of impunity. But until we trust the system, we assume it's going to try to cut our hand off. I've never had it happen, but I've had props start before on me, and it's scary. Do you remember the FW190? Mm-hmm. That's a big prop, and that's a powerful motor.
Yeah.
And now, granted, it was only at like maybe 4 or 5%, but it was still on, okay? Yeah. Throttle cut is on. Throttle is locked at -100 regardless of the throttle stick, so I can't bump it. I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna hit cancel to clear my timer so it doesn't distract me. Okay, I'm gonna click, I'm gonna scroll down to bind, right there. Now you can put a bind plug in here if you want. Oh, actually, there isn't even a bind plug in that says bat. So I can press this button, and that's gonna put us in bind mode. Okay, so I'm gonna be prepared to go into bind mode. I'm gonna make sure my hands are clear of the prop, and I'm gonna plug this in. Then I'm gonna be prepared to secure the plane. So I have my elbows up high, so I'm out of the prop wash area. Now I'm gonna hold the plane. See, it's flashing. This one's not yet, because this one matters. I'm gonna hit bind, disconnect RF, yes. Bind. It's not ready to bind because I didn't press this button. Press this button, starts flashing, see? Now I'm gonna go back into bind. Okay. One dance, holding the plane. Okay, now my plane is working. It's not working right yet, but that's okay. We don't care if it works right. We just care that the prop isn't spinning. Step 1, get the prop in a condition where you can trust it. Step 2, do all the rest of the crap you need to do. I'm gonna hold this plane. I'm gonna secure it. I'm gonna take my throttle cut and I'm gonna turn it off. Nothing happens, that's what we expected. Throttle stick is going up. Cat's concerned. Throttle cut's back on. Throttle stick is up. I can now trust this plane, okay? Because we have vetted the regular primary functions of the throttle. So now I can work around it and not be like some big pansy. But the truth is, I need to make sure of the mode. There's 3 modes, and here's how you can tell. 1, you can just stick your eyes on the actual light that's right here. Can you see that light from there?
Well, you covered it up with a wire from that side.
You need to move to my other side.
I can see it.
You can see it?
Yep.
If you go to my other side, you'll see it better. Look right here. See that light?
Okay.
Here, I'm bringing you down where you need to be. See that light? I guess you can see it, but the problem is I want to keep you out of the prop wash here, or prop area. So that light is going to change when I flip my gear switch. I'm going to secure the plane since you're close enough.
Okay.
So my gear switch is going to move only into 2 positions, so that limits what I can set. But we move that off of the A switch. So now we're on the G switch, okay? So there should be 3 modes. 1.
Flashing, slow flashing.
Now 2.
Fast flashing.
Okay. So as a result of not having any of the controls configured, we don't know exactly if it's working because 2 of our control surfaces are not working yet. So we need to make sure our flaps are in the center. We'll have to come back to the mode in a second because we got to set our control arms, right?
Right.
Okay. So the control linkages need to be installed for both the rudder and the elevator. Okay, this is going to be the ailerons, elevator, rudder. So it looks like it's going to be going the right direction. At least that's kind of nice. So if that's our neutral position, then where are we supposed to stick them?
We did not look yet.
So I'm assuming it's going to go into the outside hole. This is something you have to look at inside of your manual. They will either tell you what hole to put it in. Is that where it is? So the rudder is supposed to go on the outside to the outside, okay? So we'll take that, we'll slide it in the outside hole, and we'll just kind of tip it down, and we can tell that this is not even reaching yet. So we're gonna first of all just grab the other one, make sure they're the same length. They are. That means I need to hold this really tight and then unscrew. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a lot of turns, but we need a lot to get there. Okay, I actually overshot, that's good. So you can see if I were to snap that in there, imagine that sliding through the hole. I'm just centering it. Then that would put us not quite centered. Okay, so I'm gonna try this. I'm just gonna try snapping it. Now, in order to put this on easy without breaking, I'm gonna slide that rubber back, that fuel tube. Okay, you can see what I'm talking about. This is pulled to the right. Okay, now obviously it's moving the correct direction. I'm lifting the plane up, but it's definitely not centered, okay? So I'm gonna pop this out, now I'm gonna pull this out. 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, and I count halves for a reason, okay? Okay, and I'm gonna just try to put that back in there. And you guys can see I overshot there because it's favoring this side over that. And you gotta be really lined up. If you're not lined up, it's not gonna work. Are you lined up? Okay. So that means I have to do this again. So I'm gonna go back in 1/2 a turn because we went 3. Okay. Okay, so that looks pretty close. I don't know, and I can tell it's correcting every time I move it. That feels pretty centered. Okay, so I'm gonna snap this by pushing this, and it's gonna put that ball linkage through. You guys see what I'm talking about right here? That thing's gonna snap in there. Okay? It's really hard to do that. You're blocking your light, by the way. It's really hard to do that at certain times because those are sometimes super cheap, but this one's pretty high quality. Yaw left, yaw right, and obviously you can see your tail dragger wheel doing the same function, okay? Now I can also tell that that's not lined up worth a crap compared to this rudder, okay? So there is no real adjustment for that, so you have to just bend it. And I'm not excited about that at all. But if you wanna bend it, the best thing you're gonna have to do is probably get some needle nose pliers up here and then just tweak this that way. Because look how far off that is. That's gonna like way yaw the plane. Okay, so we're obviously in stabilized mode because it's working like that. There's off, and I'm assuming that's either stabilized or auto leveling. So either the top or the bottom of our G switch is gonna be auto leveling, okay? So now, for the elevator, let's see if we're going in the right direction. The reason I check if we're going in the right direction, okay, so it's over here. Oh, it's in auto leveling. Go over here. See, and then watch this. See that? I can tell it's an auto leveling because it's changing the absolute position of the elevator. That's off. That's stabilized. Now it's going to change, but it's only going to change with movement. That's a stabilizer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take my word for it. We'll talk about it in more detail as we go through the builds. Okay? So as a result, this being hard to see, I'm gonna look over here. The elevator is supposed to be in the outside and the outside, okay? So then I can slide this into the outermost hole, flip it all the way around, and I just marred my finish for no apparent necessary reason. That was stupid, see? Now what I wanna do is I wanna make this elevator not drip, I wanna make it level. So I'm gonna just kind of hold it where I think I need to be. Oh yeah, I gotta come out like 3 or 4 turns. So there's 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. Goodness gracious, we're gonna be right on the edge. 5 halves, 6 halves, 7 halves. It's gonna be like the SU-27 all over again. Jeez. 8 halves, 9 halves, 10 halves, 12 halves, 13 halves. So we still got a lot there. Okay, I think I gotta be getting close. So I'm gonna slide this, fuel. Oh yeah, that's getting really close to the end. We are out of throw. You kidding me? Look at this. Look at this. I'm like almost out of here. I'll show you guys closer. I'm gonna take this out. Okay guys, this is a bit of a problem. Look at this. We're like out of throw almost. There's 1 more, there's 2 more, there's 3 more, there's 4 more, there's 5 more, there's 6 more. That's not very many turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is not very much for an elevator.
Well, the elevator didn't look like it moved very much earlier.
Yeah, well.
But, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't like that at all, but I guess we'll see. That's gonna be past center, so I'm gonna go in half a turn. Now I'm gonna try to slide this in here. Do you guys know what I mean when I'm counting by halves? Does that make sense, or am I just totally losing it?
No, it makes sense.
See, that's pointed down. It needs to come out. Let's see if it goes up after I come out. Okay, so I came out half a turn. Now I'm gonna line this up back to go into the outside hole. Unfortunately, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so snapped it. Okay, so let's stop for a second and talk about this. Why does it matter? Because if this turnbuckle has 20 threads it's on, then it's less likely to rip out. If it has 5 threads on, it's still probably okay, but it's like on the edge of not making me comfortable. If it has 3 threads, it's 100% sure gonna rip out when you have a high G load on that elevator, okay? Now, obviously the G load is on the plane, not just the elevator, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna put a lot of weight on this and it's just going to pull, it's gonna tug and resist on that linkage, okay? So if it's trying to go, if you're trying to pull a high G maneuver up and the elevator goes up like this, right? Then it's pushing. But a low G, like when you're going negative Gs, you put your elevator down, it's gonna be pulling on that shaft really hard. And then eventually, if you've only got 3 threads, it's just gonna rip them right off the end of it. Or it's actually gonna rip the threads on the socket of the plastic, not necessarily the metal of the shaft. Ask me how I know, because it's happened to me before. And it's happened to planes that shouldn't have happened on that are really expensive. So this one's considerably less expensive, but it still makes me nervous. Now I'm a little bit tempted to just put like some glue or something in there just to build up the threads. But to be honest with you, I guess we're just gonna see if it rips out. If it rips out, then you'll know, okay? So that's going the wrong direction. So first things first, let's go to servo setup, travel, scroll over to reverse, elevator. So now the elevator is going up, down. Okay, ailerons. That is wrong. So I'll go to aileron and I'll click it for reverse. See, aileron. Roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. Now, my flaps are not totally set up right. We're gonna work through that next. Okay, so obviously the flaps are gonna be done in the flap menu. So we're gonna click and scroll into flap system. And it looks like I went the right direction. That's pretty cool. Just go to -100. Yeah, so -100 doesn't quite get us there. That's not unusual. Now that'd be like the takeoff setting. I actually wanna go into the minus. Okay, and then on the full landing setting, I wanna make these things like barn doors. So the other thing I wanna check for is that I'm not binding the servo as I go all the way. So far, so good. Can you see them? So we're definitely good there. Now, so you can see I'm minus 100 to go to the top, minus 30 for my takeoff flaps. It's not as much deflection. And then my landing flaps are way down. Now, I'm actually not like super unhappy with this, but I can bring that up a little bit closer. But before we do it, let's go ahead and do our elevator setting. I'm just gonna exaggerate this. I'm gonna scroll way high. So on my takeoff flaps, I want it to go down. So now, I mean, 66 is way too much, obviously. So I hit cancel, and I'm gonna bring this to like, let's just do like 6 and 10. Nah, let's do 14. Let's do 10 and 14. Okay, so this goes at the same timing, and then it goes down a little bit further. So 10 and 14 is my estimate. Now I need to go into servo setup, travel, flap. So when it's in this position, I'm gonna walk it up. You see how I walked it up so that this goes to the same spot and that goes to the same spot. So I'll go to 115. That should do it. So there's our takeoff flaps. There's our landing flaps. Now I can take that 100, I can highlight it, and I can go even further. Probably about 125. I think I'm almost, that's a lot. I don't know if I even want that much. I'm just gonna stay at 100, okay? That's still a lot of deflection. So there's our takeoff flaps. Okay, so normal flight mode, takeoff flaps, and then landing flaps. Okay, so we're all the surfaces now are hopefully going in the correct direction, and they are. Now, if you want more deflection on any of your surfaces, you can do the same thing we did with the travel. So like if you wanted the ailerons to be a little bit more, you could click and you could scroll to the ailerons and you could open this up to like 150. Okay? And I normally don't do that, but I just feel like there's not very much deflection on the elevator. I feel like the rudder could actually use a little bit more too. I'm gonna go, instead of 150, I'll go like 125. How about that? Kind of a compromise. And then I'm gonna go rudder and I'm gonna go like 125. And then elevator, I think the elevator is fine. We have plenty of deflection. Now, if you're curious what the manufacturer wants you to do for deflections, you can almost always find something like this in the manual. It's gonna tell you how much they assume they're gonna move, okay? Now there's also a manual here for the reflex. If you're curious about that, I was telling you about the S-bus PPM. If you have that type of receiver, you can send an S-bus line and eliminate the others, okay? Now, we haven't talked about thrust reverse next, or we haven't yet, but we will now, okay? Because at this point, we can now establish if we're in auto leveling, off, or stabilized mode, okay? I want stabilized mode all the time. So as you know, we set it to switch G. So we're gonna go ahead and get a look at this real quick. How do we tell if we're in stabilized mode? Okay, that should be auto leveling mode. I only know because of evidence I've seen so far. Watch the ailerons. The easiest thing to check is the ailerons. Finding the quickest route to level. Now watch the elevator secondarily. It's trying to find the quickest route to level. The quickest route to level, okay? So we are going to have access to that if you want it, but we're gonna give it up so we can have thrust reverse. So now I'm gonna go to off. It's very obvious for off because there will be no activity. Nothing, 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 okay? So then I'm gonna go to stabilized mode. Now I should see movement and then back, movement and then back, movement and back, movement and back. But then flip it over and it's not gonna automatically try to level. Now I'm gonna show you what auto leveling would look like. That's what it would look like. That's just stabilized. Now I'm gonna take the camera and I'm gonna show you. You can see when you look at the rudder, it's trying to resist my movement. It's trying to resist my movement. Now the elevator is trying to resist my movement as I go up and down. But if I stop, it just stays put. Okay, same thing here on the ailerons. Up, down, up, down. Now remember, you need to split out and do that same test for all the surfaces. This surface and that surface. If you split and do crow. But just remember this, guys. If you do crow, which means you would disconnect the one aileron from the Y cable, and then you would plug it straight into your receiver's opened port. This transmitter doesn't know about your stabilizer. It doesn't care about your stabilizer, and it doesn't have anything to do with your stabilizer. It only has to do with the pulse width modulation on each of these ports, okay? Now that we have tested and seen that we're in the right stabilized mode, you can see that flash rate is, it's kind of like that. Off is off. Solid is auto leveling. Okay, so this would be like AS3X, that'd be like safe, that'd be off. Oh, so it looks like it does a really slow flash.
Slow flash.
Okay, so there's stabilized mode is what we want. So now watch the stabilized mode. I just want to teach you something, guys. S-Bus PPM mode. Watch this. Now I'm going to unplug it. Now watch this. It's in stabilized mode still. I'm going to power cycle. It's going to go back to stabilized mode. Once it gets bound, stabilized mode. Okay, pretty good. Now, I don't trust this. I do trust this because throttle cuts on. Now throttle cuts on and tested. Okay, so I can see that we're in stabilized mode. I'm just double checking my position because it felt like that stabilizer got kicked a little bit to the right. You do want this thing straight down the length of your plane. If it's not straight, the plane may have a tendency to actually veer a little bit, okay? So make sure that's down the length of your plane. It's gotta be square, okay? Otherwise it's positionally aware, right? So now that we've disconnected this, we can just kind of take that off to the side. Now this is thrust reverse. So you see how my arm is? Go back. I'm gonna plug this into the servo signal cable. Now I don't know what direction this prop is gonna spin. Normally you'll hear an audible beep when you change direction. Throttle cut is currently on and tested. Throttle cut's off. Now I'm gonna give it throttle. It's blowing the paper towels. Correct? Throttle cut's on. It's now stopped the throttle. Throttle cut's back off. Stick is down. Now I'm gonna go to what I believe will do thrust reverse. Now I'm gonna give it throttle. That's thrust reverse.
Yep.
Okay? Now I'm gonna go back to the other mode. You guys hear that beep? Throttle sticks down. Now, we've established that we can trust this system with the throttle cut on, okay? Because we now have everything landed, I can quickly put this away and then we'll finish the thrust reverse setup, okay? How the heck did I manage to end up in between this cable? What the heck did I do? Look at this. I went through the middle of it? Why would you do that, Brian? So dumb. Okay, so this might take me a second. I'm gonna literally just untangle this and come right back. Okay, so I wasn't actually tangled through there. I don't know what the heck happened. It's like this thing straddled the cable, which is really weird. So anyway, I wanna talk about cable management for just a second because this thing needs to go somewhere, right? Now, I don't actually need that cable, and so I'm gonna do a couple of zip ties and I'm gonna actually eliminate that right now because we don't need to be spatially aware with our receiver on this application.
Right.
And that's important to understand because if you're spatially aware, then your receiver has to be mounted flat or in a particular orientation, which will then be generally indicated through the setup of forward programming, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna eliminate this cable that's not needed, okay? And the reason we're doing this is because I want to save this cable for another application because these are kind of handy with the female to female cables, okay? I just built one the other day for some reason. I thought I had 1,000,000 of them, but evidently I don't.
Now we do.
Now we do. Well, we don't have 1,000,000, we just have like a few. Okay, so look, so now I'm gonna do my cable management. It's gonna be very basic cable management. That's way too long. I'm just gonna like try doing this as simple as possible. to protect the plane from itself and the possibility of chattering and vibrating to the extent of losing a connection. Okay, so like the yellow thrust reverse, I'm gonna pull out so it's nice and tight, and then I'm gonna tighten this zip tie. We're gonna call it good. Then I'm gonna literally take this, I'm gonna loop this a couple of times, and then I'm gonna find a spot where I can stick this down in so it doesn't have the bind button getting hit all the time. Now remember, you do have to press and hold that for a few seconds, and it has to be within so many seconds of a startup. So I thought when they first released it, I'm like, what a stupid idea. You're gonna hit it all the time. It's gonna be a big problem. It's been really nice, actually. We have not had a single problem with it. Which is funny because I would have been a big naysayer on a few things in this hobby, and I was wrong on a few things. But I've been right on a lot of other things too, admittedly. All right, so show them that, how that all
Looks
worked
nice.
out.
Yeah.
Looked nice. Nice, simple cable management. It's the best type of cable management. Now, we're gonna go ahead and throttle cut, clear our timer, and we're gonna plug this back in. We still can trust things. Okay. You guys see how much easier it is to get that battery in there now that we have all the cable management done, unnecessary crap taken out.
Yep.
Okay, now, a couple things. We're talking about thrust reverse now. Excuse me, folks. Thrust reverse is the last part of our setup before we do center of gravity testing, okay? So we already know we're locked in stabilized mode, so hopefully we don't have too much throw because that stabilizer might be too much for what we need to do, all right? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna talk about this switch condition. So we need to go over to monitor mode, and gear is now commanding that switch. We set that right at the beginning. Okay, so that'll be thrust reverse. How do we know? Because I am in thrust reverse, throttle cuts off. You guys see it blowing? Now off with you. Now I'm gonna go, that's forward. But there's this weird floating thing in the middle. I don't like that, okay? Now, throttle cuts on. I could reverse the channel, but that would be leaving us floating in the middle, okay? If I reversed gear, that would solve the problem, but it's still gonna float us in the middle. I don't like that. I would rather go to digital switch setup for safety, and I would set switch G. I want this to, instead of being 100, I want this to be minus 100. So that's gonna give us forward thrust. How do we know? Because we just tested all of it. And then this needs to be plus 100. That's gonna be reverse thrust. Okay. And then this one needs to be plus 100 as well. And why do you want to not be tight in the middle, Brian? Because I don't want any ambiguity about what position we're gonna be in. So position 1, you can see it's labeled up here. It says 0, 1, 2. So G, but you can also see this gray box here, the outlines, that'll tell you what position corresponds to what the output's gonna be down here in the monitor, okay? So now we can go back out. Now watch this, throttle cut is on, I've turned it off. I should be getting forward thrust because this is forward. And I do have forward thrust. And then I will reverse thrust here and reverse thrust here. Reverse thrust, forward thrust. And to nothing, throttle cuts on, everything's tested in all 3 modes, and sticks back down. So that tells us, what do we have set up? We have the plane built. We have the Velcro strap replaced. We fixed our hole. We also did all of the radio setup with the Reflex V2, okay? Now it's time to mark the CG and test it, okay? CG is supposed to be 60 to 65 back from the leading edge. The camera crew and I are going to change this. Anybody who uses this thing in this house needs to set it back to metric when it's used.
When it's used.
So 60 to 65.
Okay.
60 to 65. All right, so here's 60. So there's 60. From the leading edge. Now, you're probably thinking, why are you marking the top? Good point. I don't want to mark the top because I'm not testing it on the top. Because this is a high wing, it's going to balance on top of your fingers usually. So you want to mark the bottom if you can. I mean, you can mark the top if you want to see it that way, but I wouldn't. Okay. So let's see if there's already a marker. There is not. Okay, so we'll put that, just make a little dent. And in this case, I'm going to mark the dent with that to make sure it's really easy to see. So as you can see, 60 millimeters. So I just go from the leading edge and then I mark there. So now we need to do the same thing except for 65 millimeters, and that'll be the back hole, okay? So we'll just extend this back out. That's a pretty tight center of gravity range. And if you guys have never used a caliper like this, we have links to all the different tools we use. If you follow our links, it'll take you to our page on Brian Phillips RC. Look at this, my hole, the marker hole is almost 5 millimeters. Yeah, exactly. So it's always dangerous when there's two holes that are super close together with vastly different purposes. So if you guys don't know how to use calipers, calipers are a super handy tool. We have links to that. We have links to things like forceps, which are all on our tool page, correct?
Supplies.
Supplies. Yep. And then we also have 3D printers and laser engravers and things like that that we have either reviewed or we will be reviewing, and they should be in the same area, right? Mm-hmm. Just in case you guys are wondering. But if you need a leaf blower, those are the really important ones.
I'm just gonna make a page just for
the leaf blower.
We'll
the
just
entire
mark it
dedicated
every time
page.
we use it.
So that being said, we've got a battery already in here, so we can check the CG. We already trust that the throttle cut is working. I'm just gonna move the plane stand out of the way. Then all I have to do is use in my case, my middle finger. It's the longest finger. If you're some sort of a weirdo and your middle finger, I marked the opposite side. Look at this, look at this.
You did?
I marked the inside here and I marked the outside there. That's so dumb.
Oh, that is weird that you did that.
Well, it looks exactly the same, but it's functions. So when I put my hand in there, you want to be symmetrical, because otherwise you're never gonna find them with your fingers. Okay. So there's one point, and there's the next point, and you're probably thinking to yourself, that is really ugly. You are absolutely correct. Normally, if there's only one set of holes, it's a lot less ugly. I promise you. So just don't make two sets of holes.
At least half as ugly.
Now, the other thing is you can wipe that off with alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol and a rag will take that marker off.
Since it's not on a painted.
It's not on a painted surface. It's always harder when you get something like these things that hold the wings, because then you have to reach in between. Oh yeah, we're perfect.
Yeah.
Guys, we're perfect. Either set of holes, 2200 3S is gonna be fine. Now, the real question becomes, do you want to use 2200 3S or do you want to use 2200 4S? And the question is it's going to be an important one, because I know you guys are going to 100% absolutely immediately ask me that question. And my answer has always been this: if it flies fine on 3S and it's designed for 3S, then it would probably behoove us to use 3S. However, a lot of you guys have experienced that with FMS models, especially 3S rated models with 40 amp ESCs, we have had pretty much 100% success ratio using 4S batteries, okay? So if you guys are like me and you want to have, so if you have 3S or you have 4S, it's really up to you if you want to burn up the ESC. Our experience is that the 40 amp ESC is fine. We haven't burned up ESCs yet, at least as it pertains to the equipment that we've gotten from FMS has not burned up. But there are people that I'm sure will put a 4S in here and burn it up. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. It's rated for 3S, so we're gonna use it on 3S. We hope it works really good on 3S so we don't have to jump into the 4S, just to avoid the risk of having an issue. But just keeping in mind, there is probably gonna be a little bit higher current. And this is how it works. When the manufacturers size an electronic speed control, they size it to a particular, 3S or 4S pack, because there are sometimes rounding errors. Like we don't want to call it a 50 amp. We don't want to call it a 45 amp. We don't want to call it a 43 amp. We don't want to call it a 42 amp. We're calling it a 40 amp. And that's one of the things that you're going to find out about the quality ESCs, is that the quality ESCs are usually a little bit underrated and the cheap ESCs are usually a little bit overrated, okay? And so that's kind of what I'm getting at without saying it in such a definitive way, because I haven't actually flown this on 4S yet. So we'll see how it does on 3S. My guess is gonna be doing pretty good. And I gotta say, I love thrust reverse. It's a fun feature. This looks like it's gonna be a really cool plane. Hopefully we've answered all your questions as to how to get it out of the box, how to get it set up, and then how to make it do the things you wanna do. Now, obviously we're doing this on the regular foam tires, the Tundra tires, but you can also install these, okay? Which is gonna be as simple as taking this nut off and then sliding this on, and then of course using that spring. You want those things to go like this in the air. So when you touch down, they'll spring down like this. And that keeps you from having them do this and then catch and nose over, okay? And then the same thing is true. Well, it looks like they do include a black screw here, so maybe they just give you another screw, because the one that goes for the wheels might be a little bit too long, okay? But everything you need is included in here, and then obviously everything you need for the floats. That's a little bit more involved process to put them on. We have done it before. It's not a particularly hard thing to do. And there's no servo on the float. So when you do that, you're gonna have to undo your rudder. You're gonna have to undo 2 screws. You're gonna have to undo this, slide that back, undo this, undo 2 screws, that comes off. Then this slides straight down, and then of course your water rudder is going to extend down. Do that last because you want your floats installed first so that you have something to hold the structure up. Okay, and by the way, if you guys watch our videos, you've seen us do second thoughts on planes. So let me give you an example. Say this plane here, that plane there. You know, we've got floats for a lot of different planes. And if we haven't already done a float video for a particular plane and you're looking for it, you're probably gonna have to wait a little longer, because obviously our pond's not done. When our pond is done and it's full, then our hope is we can start working our way back through for second thoughts or revisits. Usually we do our maiden along with our Unbox field radio setup. And then a few months later, maybe 6 months later, or when something comes back into stock or whatever, then we'll do a revisit or a second thoughts. In our case, the second thoughts usually follows shortly thereafter. And then our revisits are like when we are reviewing for a 3rd or 4th or 5th time or whatever it happens to be. In this case, it's gonna be like floats. And once you guys see it with floats, you're gonna realize just how even more amazing this product is. Because keep it in mind, floats are available for a lot of planes, but not all planes do amazing with floats. I mean, floats in general, my experience has been that it's fun. It adds a new element to the flight experience, but it doesn't really make or break a plane. A plane is made or broken before you put floats on. So if you're looking to evaluate the performance of a plane, then if it doesn't do well with wheels, it's probably not gonna do any better with floats. Floats complicate things because of additional weight, additional drag, because you have a huge surface under you, and then also a little bit more build time. Also, transportability and storage are a factor you have to keep in mind. So anyway, hopefully we've answered all your questions and even more, and we hope you guys will be back for our next videos on Brian Phillips RC. If you want to help support the channel, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and then you'll be notified when our new content comes out, which is just right around the corner always, because we put out about 2 to 5, sometimes 6 videos in a week. There's a lot of content. We try to do a long format. We're trying to come up with a plan that's new for this year, where we can do some short content as well. That's gonna be opposite the long content, so we don't lose anything. And if you guys are just in a hurry, you can watch a short. But we're not sure exactly how that's gonna work. And so we're hoping you guys will enjoy it and also appreciate that we're not giving up on what we have, which is our core principal audience that likes long format content, where we show all the detailed steps and all the frustrations, like trying to replace straps that shouldn't need to be replaced in a brand new plane. But what do you do? You know, this is what we do on Brian Phillips RC, because at the end of the day, we want you guys to know that this FMS Kingfisher is going to be as good as they say it's going to be. Also, I must say, for being a 1.4, it feels small. Don't you think so? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but I guess 1.5 makes a small step, but the plane gets a lot bigger. And that's what's deceiving, is wingspan does not necessarily make a plane big. I mean, it sounds stupid, but if you have a huge 2-meter wingspan, the plane is gonna be like double the size of a 1.2, which is crazy, but it is true.
Yeah.
And if you guys are curious to see an example of that, you can watch our Carbon Z, I believe it was a T28 2.0. We did a video on that where we showed like from 1.1 meter all the way up to 2
All the
meters.
way
And
up.
it's just, it's incredible the difference in actual mass and size and quality.
Yeah.
So hopefully we answered all your questions. Guys, support us, buy these things from the links in the video description below. It's the easiest way to support us. You win, we win. The manufacturers that support us so that we can bring you more content, they win too. And you guys don't have to write us a check or send us a Venmo or whatever it is you want to do. Because at this point, we would prefer that you're just in the air flying with us, enjoying this amazing hobby, rather than sending a few bucks. But if you want to send a few bucks, we don't want to cut you off at the knees, because we do have Patreon, PayPal. Super thanks and YouTube members are all appreciated. And if you guys are one of our Patreons, we do kind of have a little bit easier time communicating in that platform, but it is not a designated benefit, or we'd have to charge that for those of you that are overseas watching this content on Brian Phillips RC. So we appreciate you. We know that you're going to be back for more, and there is literally so much we can't squeeze it in. And we enjoy doing this. And as long as you guys keep coming, we'll keep doing it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Look at this beautiful thickened sauce. Sesame chicken. Here it goes, guys. You ready? Oh, yeah. Look at that beautiful stuff. Oh, yeah. You know you want some. Yes, you do. All right, thanks for watching.